Hey everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. I'm excited because it's Thanksgiving week and some of us have a short week. Some of us don't teach this week, which does not seem fair. But so the rest of us who are still teaching this week and are not in like a pecan pie / wine soaked haze at this moment yet, we're doing great and we're gonna make it through. And anyway, so I'm excited because I teach today and tomorrow, and then I'm off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Hooray, Thanksgiving. So today on the Musical Mondays, I'm planning on talking about some of the things you might do when you come back from Thanksgiving break, or if you're in one of those countries that doesn't celebrate Thanksgiving right now. Hi, Australia. Some things that you might do if you're thinking ahead to December lessons. I wanted to share some of these because as soon as I come back from break, I'm going to be doing some of these lessons, but also because I know it's sometimes nice to hear some of these things a little bit ahead of time so you can get any extra resources you want, start prepping, get things like that. So that's sort of my plan today, is to talk about some of those December lessons, the December games and resources and things you might think about moving forward. Okay, first, if you hear me talk about a book or a resource or a video or something and you're like, ooh, that's cool, where can I find that? There's a whole page on my blog dedicated to all the links and things we talk about in these videos. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, or if you're listening to it on the podcast, you should be able to scroll to the bottom of the caption and just click a direct link to go to that links page, or you can go and search through my blog. If you go to makemomentsmatter.org, just click on the video tab, you should be able to find that links page. And one more thing, if you are interested in continuing to learn more after this video is over, after you've finished listening to this podcast, come to Facebook, join our Facebook group, Every Moment Matters, a music education community. Join and let's continue our conversation and keep chatting and learning from each other. It's a great place to ask questions and find more people. Okay, so this is week 14 of Musical Mondays videos. Next week will be my last one for the semester. I do 15 every semester. So if you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, you're like, let's circle back and talk about blah, blah, blah from week 4. If you have anything that you really, really want to talk about, please jump on the Facebook group or send me an email or something so that we can talk about that next week. Because then I go on a little break. So if you have any questions or thoughts, you want to circle back or anything, please let me know. Shoot me an email or leave a comment. Also, the week after that, December 6th, I'm doing a special training online through Music Construct Ed, and you can find a link to that on the links page, or you can find it on my Facebook page. I'm going to be posting more about that, but it's about children's literature in the music classroom, not just for December, like for the whole year, and some things you can do, some lessons you can integrate. It's going to be really exciting. I've never presented for them before, and it's going to be super fun because I love seeing the stuff that they put out. So check that out if you're interested. Okay, so I want to talk first about bulletin boards because this last week I did Nebraska Music Educators, and one of the sessions I did was about music advocacy, and I talked maybe for a while about bulletin boards, and I think some people are like, oh my gosh, he's talking about bulletin boards. I think bulletin boards are really great for a couple reasons. One, kids like them. Kids like looking at them. Adults like looking at them. People like we're talking about like bulletin boards out in the hallway, not necessarily the ones in your classroom. Kids like that too. But as parents and administrators and whoever walks by your classroom, they like looking and seeing what's up there. So I always try and put out a bulletin board and change it at least once a month or every other month, depending on what the content is. One of the things I said in the session was, even after you leave school, if you are not present, like let's say it's like a basketball tournament at your school, or a church rents your school on the weekends, or whatever, like if there's someone in the building, even if you're not there, your bulletin board can advocate for you, even if you're not physically there. Or on days when you are just so tired, your bulletin board is there and it is advocating for you if you have it there. So I always try and put up a bulletin board that's interesting, that catches people's attention, that tries to draw them in and look at the content. And so I wanted to share a couple of those that I have already printed out that I love to use. There are a couple more that I put on the links page that you might be interested in. But I wanted to share a couple with you. So right now on the bulletin board, I have a focus that's like all like fall words and then the rhythms that match them. So like apple pie, 2/8 notes and a quarter note. And so it looks, well, it doesn't look like this because this is the holiday version, but okay, it looks something like this, right? So it has the picture of the thing and then the name of it and then its rhythm, right? Well, this is obviously the holiday version. So it's gonna morph from the Thanksgiving fall edition to the holiday edition, and this has a bunch of different holidays included. So okay, this is my favorite one, Cole. I love that, putting that on there. But it includes Las Posadas. So there's this cute little one with the Las Posadas. That's 4 sounds. Let's see what else we got in here. Candy cane. Let's see. It's got Kwanzaa. It's got Santa Claus. Nutcracker, most important one, right? Okay, we're gonna be talking about Nutcracker today. I'm so excited. I love Nutcracker. There are some, if you wanted to pull out the holiday elements and just have some sort of wintry things, there are some in there too. Falling snow. But then there are definitely some like Christmas tree, or this one, lighting candles. It's a menorah. So the candles you're lighting are the candles on a menorah. But anyway, there are all sorts of things in here. Chinese New Year. That doesn't really fall right now, but it's, you know, I like to add it in there too. Let's see, is there anything else in here I should see? Yeah, and there are other things you could totally pull out if you didn't want to do the holiday related stuff. Friends and family, that could definitely be something you put on there. Anyway, this is something I'm going to put out in my hallway, and then there are these words that say like, I think it spells out sounds of the season, and season is spelled out in big presents, and then sounds, I have to figure out where I put that. I think sounds is little light bulbs. Yep, little light bulbs that spell out sounds of the season. Anyway, super cool and fun, and kids, when they look at it, they get excited about it, and it's bright and colorful and includes a lot of different fun things, plus also the rhythms. So I think this is the one I'm going to put out. I have a couple other options. One of the things I've been doing on the back of the like little manila envelope that has, you know, so like it says sounds of the season, holiday themed rhythm bulletin board on one side. If I'm like filing away, I try and put like where I've used it, when I've used it. So my school, PRE, December 2020. So maybe I shouldn't use it again this year because I used it last year. I could use it because it was like the Thanksgiving one sort of rolled right into this if I want, but I could also mix it up and do something different. Because I don't like to do the same bulletin board 2 years in a row in the same exact place. Because kids will be like, oh yeah, I remember this, fun, and like look at it for a second, but it's fun to actually, it's fun to put different things on there. Okay, so then there's this other one that I also have pre-printed and ready to go. There are a couple more on my that I put on the links page. There's one that's like 25 days, 25 carols, where there's like a clue for every day, and it has like the clue, and then you can like flip it up and see what the actual carol is underneath. That's sort of fun. You could also, there's another one on there that's just like December, like musicians who are born in December. Also fun. This one I like when we do like a unit on caroling or talk about caroling, and each page has a little fun fact about caroling. So in some countries, if Christmas carols are played before December or after Christmas Day, it's considered to be extremely bad luck. I have a lot of friends who start playing them in July, so they don't have terrible luck, I'll just say that. Then it's like rich history. It talks about the history of caroling and fun fact and like all these just little things with information about caroling. And then along with that comes a little kid. There's a whole set of these little kids who like are writing music notes that are on snowflakes. It's like super cute little people flying around. Anyway, this is one called Celebrate Caroling. It's all about caroling. And it's fun because, like, you know, my kids might know what caroling is, maybe, and we talk about carols in class in December. So it'd be fun to, like, give them a little bit more history and put that out there. Again, it's an advocacy moment because it's giving them more history. It's talking about something that maybe they know about but don't know super well. And so it gives them a chance to sort of integrate with that content sort of on their own, or as they're walking by with families or whatever. You know, the gym gets a lot of use, both by like our after school program and parent organizations, and any, like, you know, if the watchdogs come in and have like a meeting, the dads of great students or whatever, they'll oftentimes meet in the gym. So it's like a thoroughfare, my hallway. So a lot of times I'll put things out there and I get comments or emails from parents and I don't realize, like, oh, you were in the building, right? You know, like it's fun to get those messages like, oh, hey, I went by the room and I saw blah, 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 blah. Cool. I'm so glad you went by the room and you saw the bulletin board and you thought it was worth emailing me about. How cool. So anyway, there are a bunch of bulletin boards. The reason I mention it now is because I know some of you are like, Thanksgiving brain, I'm turning off my bulletin board mind. But now is the time to like print it out, get it laminated, plan ahead so that you're not trying to catch up later, because, you know, once we get back from Thanksgiving break, then it's like Zoom, everything happens all at once. So it's good to like get some of this down now and plan now before you go into Thanksgiving break. Okay, so that's bulletin board stuff. I'm going to be talking today about December-ish, holiday-ish sort of lessons. Some of these things are not like holiday specific. If you're like, I can't use any of that, there are some things that are not. There's some Nutcracker stuff in here tonight, but there's a whole list. I know last week I talked about books you might be interested in for December. There's a whole list on my Amazon page for books about the holidays, Christmas, Las Posadas, Hanukkah, all of those. Plus also a whole list of books about the Nutcracker. On this, like on my links page, on this Amazon page I've created. You don't have to go buy them from Amazon. In fact, some of them are out of print. Don't try and buy them there because they're like, there's one more copy and it's $400. Don't do that. But even if you don't buy from Amazon, you can go to that page and you can find all the like the ISBN or the author's name or all that identifying information if you want to go buy those books and use them in your classroom. Again, I'm mentioning this now in case you're like, I need a few more books for December. Now's the time to buy them. Also, a bunch of the, I already know that some of the discount book websites I like are already saying like, hey, we're having Black Friday sales, like already. So now's the time to go start looking for books if you're interested. So on my links page, there's the links to these two big Amazon wish lists full of Christmas books, holiday books, Nutcracker books. If you want to buy from a discount book website, check out betterworldbooks.com. That's my favorite. They have used books from all over. Great website. You can also check out thriftbooks.com. Also good, but sometimes has a shipping minimum, like you have to buy at least $35 or whatever to get the free shipping. Fine, but I like free shipping. That's why I like betterworldbooks.com better. And then there's also abebooks.com. It's another great website to check out if you're interested in buying discount books online. Okay, let's jump into some of the lesson ideas, and it's great because I can start with a book. So here's a book you can go and look for online. Because I looked for it on Amazon. It's not, I don't think that it's in print on Amazon, or you can't find it like inexpensively, so go get it from a discount book website. Anyway, this is apparently a book that like everyone in the world has used for years and years, and I only found out about this summer when I was apprenticing for ORF Level 1. An amazing book. It's called Up, Up, Down by Robert Munch. You might already know Mortimer by Robert Munch, which is another instrument exploration book, but this is a super fun one. So let's talk about this real quick. So for instrument exploration, I'm using this now. No, it is not a holiday book. I'm using it now because it fits in sort of perfectly now. My students get a little crazy in December, so playing instruments helps sort of keep them focused and also get some of the crazy out. And also, it's just a fun book, and there's one more connection, which you'll see in just a second. Okay, so let me read through just part of this. One day, Anna, who liked to climb, walked into the kitchen and started to climb up the refrigerator. She went up, 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 fall down, and landed right on her head. Ow, ouch, ow, ouch, ow, ouch. I love that Anna's brother is like watching her like, I wouldn't do that, but okay. Anna's mother saw her and said, "Be careful! Do not climb!" But Anna didn't listen. She went up to her bedroom and tried to climb up her dresser. She went up, 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 fall down, and landed right on her tummy. Ow! Ouch! Ow! Ouch! Ow! Ouch! Her father found her on the floor and said, "Be careful! Don't climb!" So Anna decided to go outside, where it was okay to climb. And the biggest thing she could find to climb was the tree. Okay, and I love this because it makes it look like it's like a redwood, like this like world's ginormous biggest tree. And also you have to flip the book on its side to show the whole tree, which makes me laugh. I love any time a book does that. Anna went up, 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 fall down, and landed right on her bottom. Ow! Ouch! Ow! Ouch! Ow! Ouch! But the next time she was very careful. She went up, 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 all the way up to the top of the tree. And this is a fun moment where you can be like you expect her to fall down, but then she stays. Like kids love that too, when like you're like surprised by the book or whatever is going to happen. And then Anna yelled, "I'm the king of the..." I would change that, by the way. And then Anna sang, right? Or Anna called, or Anna whatever. "I'm the king of the castle. Mom's a dirty rascal." Okay, so then this gets into really fun times. Anna's mother came out of the house and looked all around. She said, "Anna, Anna, 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 get out of that tree." And Anna said, "No, no, 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 no." Of course, you can have a sing back moment if you want. So her mother tried to climb the tree. She went up, 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 fall down, and landed right on her head. Ow, ouch. Okay, so like I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. So Anna like is up there, haha, she's fine. So then she sings, "I'm the king of the castle. Daddy's a dirty rascal." And so then Dad comes out, looks around for her, can't find her. Then he tries to climb up. Also, he falls out, which is hilarious. He like disturbs a bird's nest, and so the birds are like parachuting down, these like little chicks. Oh, this illustrator. Anyway, he falls on his bottom and hurts his bottom, and so then Anna climbs down, 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 and she gets her brothers and sisters to go inside and get like 2 huge, ginormous band-aids, which they wrap up the parents. Hilarious. Okay, so this is one that, like, again, why did no one ever tell me for years, like, there's this amazing book. I had to learn about it when I was apprenticing this summer for Orth Level 1. So super, super fun book, right? What can you do with it? Well, this is one that we experience, and then usually I take, and like when I'm doing the other books like Mortimer or things like that, or where there's an instrument exploration, I would take an instrument, and usually the first time I sort of set it on its side. Or for this book, or for kindergarten, what's really fun the first time you do like an instrument exploration, is I like for like this one, or especially Mortimer where they're going up and down stairs, I like to use those step bells. And if any of you don't know what I'm talking about, you should just do a quick Google search for step bells. They really do look like stairs going up, like a stair step. They're usually red with white bars. I have several sets. I just didn't want to schlep one home today. So anyway, instead I brought this glockenspiel. But usually the first time, especially for Mortimer, I do this with step bells. I like show it to students and explain it with step bells. And then we go through and then we try it with Mount. So when she goes up, 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 up. And maybe the first time when she's going up and then she falls down, maybe she's not so careful. And then she just, you know, falls. And then you could also have fun with this with mallets. When she falls on her head, you could have it fall on the ball of the mallet. When she falls on her bottom, you could have the bottom go down. When she falls on her tummy, you could have the whole flat side thing fall down. But it's like a chance for you to, with the story, like anytime you do an exploration sort of like this, it's a chance for you to like let the kids explore the instrument. Usually what I do first, the first time, is I model it through the whole story. And then it's sort of like kids can see the model version of like what it might look like if they were going to do it on the instrument. And I oftentimes will say, like, when she's going up, she might go up like this. She might go up like this. When she's going up, she might go like this. You know, like, I don't know, whatever Anna's feeling that day, she might, you know, do it a different, she might move a different way. I like to model lots of different ways that she can move up and down. Well, down is really, right? Like, there's one way she can fall down. But when she's going up, I like to model different ways that she can go up so that kids can see, like, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, you could do, you know, like, any way that you're going up the mountain, as long as you're going up the, whatever, the tree, the refrigerator, whatever, as long as you're going up, you're doing it fine. I don't care how you go up. That doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to ask students to do this. Carefully once on each bar. No, careful. I'm not going to do that. I really don't care. This is the purpose of this lesson is an exploration up the bars, right? Up and down. And to get them used to holding mallets, get them comfortable with exploring on the instruments. So normally I would demonstrate with the instrument on its side like this, with a glockenspiel. Maybe I would tip a soprano xylophone or something. And then I would let students do it. And I would usually say, like, okay, but hold on. I might even hold it up like this. And if they're sitting next to an instrument, I would say, okay, if I'm holding it like this, right, the big bars, that's the bottom, right? So can you find where the big bars are at the instrument near you? So that instead of them having to tip the instrument themselves, you can have them sort of like see, like, okay, what would be up and what would be down, and figure that out. If you don't have a lot of instruments, you can have one kid on one side with a mallet and the other kid on the other side with a mallet. They can share an instrument like that. Especially for something like this, they don't need to be on like the right side. The whole point is like experiencing the instrument, seeing how it works. So if you have one kid on one side and one kid on the other side, that's totally fine. And then I would usually go back through the book and I would reread, you know, like I'd go and, you know, I'd start at the beginning and I would have her go up and fall down and go up and fall down. Maybe if you want, when you're demoing, you might have, like, you know, Anna be one mallet because Anna goes up and then the parents are different. So you could have like a bigger mallet or something to be like a differentiation for like Anna and then her parents. It's totally up to you. But, you know, with a book like this, it's just exploration and it's fun and it's trying things. And so this is something that I'm going to be doing in the next couple weeks with my kiddos because I want them to get experience on these instruments before we hit our break. I want them to have this experience so then we could do more exploration later. A lot of kindergarten is just like exploring the instruments, trying the instruments, maybe trying to keep a beat on the instrument. I'm not going to ask kids to like, okay, we're going to play a melody on the xylophones now. Like, no, we're not doing that. But it's like getting them comfortable with it and exploring. And a lot of that is like the silly, like moving the instrument on its side or flipping things over or trying things back and forward. And so much of what we do in kinder is exploration anyway. So this like fits right in. Plus also it's a super silly story. They love it. They love that the parents fail. Also, I think it's fun for this time of year because it's a Christmas tree. It's not. It's just, you know, it's an evergreen tree. But it's like, if your kid's like, this isn't a Christmas story. Oh, really? What kind of tree is that? You know, like, if kids fuss at you about that, but I don't think my kids are because it's just a super fun story. Anyway, and great to try out. So go check that book out. It's a really cool book and super fun to add in. Okay, let's talk about Nutcracker. Let's jump into some December lessons. So there are 1,002 ways to teach the Nutcracker, and none of them is right and none of them is wrong. They're all just different ways, and you need to choose for yourself what's the way to do it in your classroom. I personally teach the Nutcracker in a lot of different ways. It starts in kindergarten, and with my kindergartners, usually we'll read one of the book versions of the Nutcracker. Like, I'll introduce the story to them because, you know, even though like I'm not going to like watch the ballet or talk that much about the music with kindergarten, I have a lot of Nutcrackers in my room. So like they're going to see them and they're going to like wonder what that is. Why are these in the music room? Why do I see them other places? And so I want to introduce them to the story at least. and then like get them thinking about it, because we won't really watch the ballet until about 3rd grade, but we will start experiencing the music more and more and more. And one of the things I talk about with Nutcracker, especially with kinder and other grades, is that like, you know, there's this story. It was a super popular story. People love the story, and we learn the story, we read the story. And then I say it was so popular that someone said, why don't I add some music to go with the story? And so then they wrote this music, and then the music became famous, and you hear them, you know, so like they start like, you know, if you hear the music, you go, oh, this is from the Nutcracker or whatever. It's fun for them to know that like, this was a phenomenon, you know, like this was a super important story. And the story was so famous, it actually broke apart and had 2 different versions that sort of changed and morphed a little bit over the ages. And so, and then to talk about, oh, the music and how the music, so anyway, it's fun to talk about that and then talk about what a Nutcracker actually is. So I usually pull out a Nutcracker and I explain like, you know, why is there a Nutcracker? What is it? How does it work? And then with kindergarten, I'll pull out the Nutcrackers and like tell the story with the Nutcrackers too. So I have, this Nutcracker is like the Nutcracker. I also, over the years, Target has like every year for the past couple of years sold Nutcrackers that look like characters in the story. So I've got a Clara or a Marie, if you follow that branch of the Nutcracker. Anyway, and then I've got a Drosselmeyer. And then, okay, I didn't get this at Target, but I got it a couple years ago from the art teacher at my school. Thank you so much, Pam. At my old school. And this is the Rat King. Hilarious. He even has a little piece of cheese on his sword. And he's standing on a piece of cheese. Check that out. Anyway. So I explain sort of the kids the story. I even hold up the Nutcrackers and say, like, these are Nutcracker versions of the characters. This Nutcracker is not in great shape. But the reasons I like him, he wears like the costume that the guy in the video wears, so like they'll make that connection. Also, he fell apart a couple years ago, so his jaw actually comes out. So if you teach the version where like Fritz breaks his jaw or tries to crack his jaw or whatever, it's fun. I can put my little wrap around him. Looks again like what you would see in the story. But what happened this year was like I pulled him out of the box to like get, you know, set him out or whatever, and I realized like he is not just falling apart just from his jaw. He's like, his legs are coming out. I'm like, ooh, poor guy, he's really having some issues. So I need to like get my hot glue gun and get him back in working order before he like goes out for duty this year. But anyway, that's how I sort of introduce it with the kindergartners. And one of the things that I do with them is I talk about how like the music inspired people and the music became really famous. And then we say like, but you know, like sometimes people will hear music and they'll go, ooh, that's super cool. But what if they don't know the Nutcracker story? Maybe they add their own different story and they change it a little bit. And that's when I pull out Fantasia, not 2000, original Fantasia, because in original Fantasia, they have like the Nutcracker suite where they reimagine, like they take the music and reimagine, like what if it wasn't Nutcrackers? What if it was something else? And so like then I show the kindergartners that version, and it's fun then because we can have, you know, a conversation about like, well, if you listen to it, what do you hear in the story? If you didn't know this was about Nutcrackers, if you didn't know it was about Clara, what would you think that it's about? And then we watch like the Disney version of it. We could then maybe watch a couple little snippets from the actual ballet just so they can sort of see that. But you could also then have like an activity where you played music and you let them color, or where you played music and you let them maybe in another grade, maybe not kindergarten, but another grade, come up with like what they thought the story might be about. I remember a couple years ago I had to do a writing assignment for my 5th graders, and one of the things that we did, not necessarily with Nutcracker music, but with other music, was listen to music and try and figure out if it were like film music or music for a play or something, what would that story be telling? If you don't know where it comes from, that's fun too. Like I remember it was a couple years ago we did this with music by John Williams. If you don't know what movie it actually comes from, what would you say the story is? And so like the 5th graders or 4th graders, whatever that year, had to write out what they thought the story was. And I gave them like 3 or 4 minutes to do that. And then I told them what film it was actually from. So it's sort of cool. But you could do a version of that with Nutcracker music, or at least give kids that understanding of like, you can be inspired by music even if you don't know like the original story it was meant for. You can still be inspired and excited by it. So with kindergarten, that's what we do. We talk about, we read the book, we see what the Nutcrackers actually are. We talk about how like you might change the music or give it another story. And then we might listen to an example or two and say, like, what do you think this story would be? Okay, well, actually, it's this, in the original Nutcracker. Or what would you say it is? Okay, well, the original story tells this, and then we watch Fantasia. And we let them sort of see what that looks like. Okay, as I'm planning Nutcracker stuff, one of the things I found, because I was this is my second year at my new school, and I found this in the closet. It says Active Listening Lessons, the Nutcracker Suite, Hands-on Activities for Exploring Tchaikovsky's Ballet by David Bretzius, Bretzius. I have not used this yet. Have you used it at your school? Do you like it? What are your favorite lessons? Please leave that in the comments. If you have used this book, please tell me what your favorite things are. I've not used it. I just found it. Of course, I found it after December last year. But there's some like play along things. There are some like active play rhythm sticks with your partner during the song sort of a thing. So it's sort of interesting. I don't know. I've never used it, so I can't say yet. But I found it. I thought I would share it in case y'all have used it or haven't, or you're interested. Like Dance of the Reed Flutes. It has a playing part for like a guiro, a triangle, tempo blocks, finger cymbals, tambourine, and it has a chance for kids to like play along with the recording and stuff. And then there are other activities in here too. But there's a lot of like non-pitched percussion with the recordings and pitch percussion stuff too. Anyway, interesting. If you like it, please tell me how you use it or which ones you love. Now, I'd never seen this before, so if you're interested, I'll send you the info about it. But interesting book. The book that I do use every year that of course I can't find my copy of, I couldn't find it today at school, so I brought my other Artie Almeida book, Mallet Madness. But if you have parachutes, ribbons, and scarves, oh my, or scarves, ribbons, I can't remember the order. I think it starts with parachutes. Parachutes, ribbons, and scarves, oh my. If you have that book, not this book, but this is Artie Almeida. If you have that book, there's a really amazing lesson that I use every year to the trepak, the Russian dance, and it's like a ribbon wand movement that sort of helps students identify the form of the song with movement. Like they're using the ribbon wands as movement to help them as they're going identifying all the different parts of the song. It is absolutely wonderful. I've used it every year. In fact, last year and maybe another year, I can't remember. I've used it at least once when I was being observed by a principal. And it was off the wall amazing. Kids loved it. The principal was like so impressed. And thank you, Artie Almeida, for getting me a good rating on my evaluation. But anyway, it's just such a phenomenal lesson. So if you don't have that book, you should check out that book. If for no other reason than that lesson. That lesson is amazing. And that is from Artie Almeida's Parachutes, Ribbons, and Scarves, Oh My, which I need to find my copy of. It's probably tucked away in a cabinet. Anyway, okay, so another thing that I'm doing, since we're talking about, like, since that lesson from Artie was, like, movement and using a ribbon wand to like, help identify form elements, I do something sort of similar for another movement, for another song in the Nutcracker, and I usually do it with first grade. So, the march. Bum, 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 bum. For years, I've used that with kids as just like a movement. I use it sort of as like a movement, like let's create some actions and some movements to go along with this. And so like what we would do is we'd listen to the different parts and we'd try and identify, like, can we do like the bum, 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 bum. We always sort of equated that with like the movement of a nutcracker. And I use this as like a chance to talk about actual nutcrackers and how like they're very stiff. And so like even this Clara nutcracker who's like, you know, supposed to be a little girl and excited, she does not look all that excited. You know, or like a little girl would move. She's like very stiff, right? Because she's made out of wood. And so we talk about like, if you were a nutcracker, how would you move? How would you do that? How would you move through the space? Bum, 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 bum. And so on that part, that's what we would do. And then we would add, when the music changes, we would move in a different way. How is this movement, this music, what does it make you feel? How do you think you should move to match the music? Is it still going to be stiff and awkward sort of moving, or would it be more relaxed? What would it look like? How would that be? So with my first graders, we would sort of talk through some of those things and then try out some different movements. So like for that da 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 da, so you might try a movement with our arms, or try a movement through the space, or try a movement where we let like our hands lead us, or maybe we do something else, and then we decide which one we like the best as a class, and then we sort of put that together and do that as a movement with a class. So for that song, bum 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 bum, that's like the A. Da 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 is like a B, and then there's the scurrying little interlude later where like the rats run through. That's what I always say, like, oh, the rats run through, because we're talking about the Nutcracker. The kids only like sort of know the story by first grade. There aren't really actually rats in that scene, but my first graders don't know that. So I always say like, oh, that's like a little rat scurry. So then it gives us a chance to scurry or move around, or another kind of movement, right? Another contrasting kind of movement. Because in first grade, one of the things that we're doing a lot is like trying to identify similarities and differences, contrasts and comparisons. And so in this song, you can do a lot of that. You can have like the movement where they see contrasting movements. It's like, just things that are different, not exactly the same. One thing that I'm also trying in first grade, I'm gonna pilot it in another grade too, and just see sort of how it works, is like trying that, and also sort of making like a listening map version of it. So as we're going along and identifying the pieces, we're listening for contrasting sections and sort of how it works. Then how can you make a movement, like a listening map, to match that, to show like, like here's what it's going to look like when we go through into a final form. And so a couple of things I've tried. Well, as you're identifying different sections, kids can use some signals and things to show you. So like, maybe for the first bum, 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 like I like to give kids scarves sometimes, and they can like hold in here, bum, 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 bum. And we get to the da, 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 da. Maybe then they let the scarf be more flow more freely or something. Having a prop like that sort of helps them sort of move sometimes. Sometimes it's a hindrance, but sometimes it does help them sort of move and find pathways and things that they like. So it's fun to play with if you want. A lot of times I'll give kids something to hold in their hands, or something to like signal that something has changed. So like I have this whole set of pre-printed out light bulbs that I used a couple years ago for our bulletin board. So like I could give each kid a light bulb and say like, raise the bulb when something has changed, or, hold it up when you think you hear something new, or whatever. Like these are just a fun, again, something different, sort of an addition to add in there if you're interested, in like a visual. This, I just grabbed that. There are other things you could do too. But I also like to have these sort of like, I have a lot of little things that I printed out over the years, or kept over the years, or I've found, or whatever, that you can use then to identify different forms. So like if I gave kids some of those light bulbs and also like some stars, right? We could use like one for each section. So like the A section, bum, 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 maybe that's the light bulb. And then when they hear the next part, da, 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 maybe they put in a star. And if the next part that we hear is da, 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 maybe they put in another star. Just like another iconic visual representation, so that they can help identify different sections along the way. I like giving kids things like that, so that they can physically manipulate and move around, some sort of like pre-printed out thing, or a shape that you cut out with a die cut machine, or just something for them to physically move around and to help identify. I also, a couple years ago, and this is a freebie on my TPT store, but I made these like form letters, and each letter, it says like A, B, C, D, E. I think it goes up to G. I don't know, but each one has a shape behind it and a different color. So A is red and is a circle. B is square and it's blue. Yellow is C is a yellow triangle. D is, I think it's purple. I don't know, I've got them all here. I should be able to figure it. E is a orange pentagon. I don't know. There's, all the letters are in here. Oh, there we go. Is a purple diamond. D is a purple diamond. So this is another way that like you can use form letters to help kids sort of figure out what goes where. And you can print these out like 2 to a page like this. You get this size. And this is really easy to show up on a bulletin board. I think it also comes with like 12 or 9 to a page if you want to print out and hand out like form letters. So they're not just identifying with icons, they're actually doing it with like letters and identifying the letters in an order. To do that too. One more thing you might think about is if you wanted, you could, and let's see if I can show you here. I have my iPad, and I could mirror that up to, the smartboard or the projector or whatever. And let's see if I can show y'all here. Ooh, sorry, Instagram. I'm gonna try and move you over so you can see. Don't know if it's gonna work because technology never works when I want it to work. Oh gosh, there we go. Okay. Ooh, nope. I'm just gonna hold it down here. Okay, sorry, Instagram. Ooh. Okay, so if you wanted, gosh, I'm so sorry, Instagram. You're getting this like blurry vision. Okay, if you wanted, you could, take your iPad if you're mirroring, right, and you could make another visual representation up here. Bum 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 bum. Bum, ba-da-da-dum, bum, 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 bum. Maybe for the next part you do da-da-da. Ooh, I wanted a different color. Get back here. By the way, this app is called Sketches School, and I think it's free. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Bum, 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 bum. You know, so if you model like how to make another visual version, and then maybe when you get to you can do, it's cool if you have something like this that you can mirror up on the board. You can show them like in real time how you could create using different colors or squiggles or something that represents. This is fun too, that if you have a song that, like it goes up, or like if there's I'm trying to think of it, like the aquarium or something by Sasson where it like would maybe go up. You could do an actual like line moving up, or maybe you have something else that's like really sharp, short sounds. You can use a visual representation to show something different. And then kids, if you mirrored or did a version of this, you could give kids whiteboards, you could give kids iPads or something, whatever you wanted, to let them also do sort of a visual representation of what they're hearing. It creates a map, it documents what they've heard, and then can, I always say to kids, like, it also can show somebody else in the future what, if they're going to be listening, what to listen for. So you could, as you're doing a thing, you could listen to it. You could do the same color if you wanted. You don't have to change colors, but you could change colors to change for different elements. And if you wanted, you could always go back and you could label them. Okay, we're going to call this part A. We're going to call this B. So then this would be another A. It's just another way for kids to identify and see things as you go, and to give them a way to document what they've listened for, how they're listening. It's great. It's a great critical thinking strategy, and it's just another chance for kids to interface with the content. And sort of understand it in a new way. Anyway, I use my iPad for that. I mirror my iPad and I show that to kids up on the big board. But you could, again, you could do that with a document camera. You could do that with whiteboards. You could do it with your whiteboard. I mean, there are a lot of ways that you could do that. But I do that. I'm planning on doing that with the march from the Nutcracker. Bum, 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 right? So that's an easy one to do. Okay, that's a lot of Nutcracker. I actually have a whole blog post on my blog about how to teach the Nutcracker, different resources you can use, things you can do that if you're interested. So I linked that on the links page. I think I've already done a podcast episode about it too, but I am passionate about the Nutcracker. I like the Nutcracker. So if you want, there are lots of resources on my blog for that. I want to hit 2 more resources before we go, 2 more lessons that you could teach if you're interested. Before I head out. So I also like teaching every year O Tannenbaum, and I was going to say O Tannenbaum, because I just think it's an interesting story. It's an interesting history. A couple years ago when I first started teaching this, I made sure that I made, well, many of you know, like I make these things called Favorite Folk Song Kit. And anytime I teach a folk song, this kit, like, it pulls in all the vocabulary and the history and the if I need any visuals or anything, I put it all sort of in one PowerPoint and package it together. And I have a bunch of those on my Teachers Pay Teachers page. But the reason I do that is so that I have like all of that stuff together. And so I started doing that for some carols too. And I have a bunch of carol sets out there, but one of them is for O Tannenbaum. And let me show you just sort of what's included. Again, I'm going to switch my screen. I sure hope this works. It never works as well as I want. Facebook, I think you're getting a better view of it, but Instagram, we'll see if this works. Hope so. Okay. Hey, okay, there we go. So on the thing, so there's just basically a main screen that says like O Tannenbaum. Some people call it a Christmas tree. It's actually not that, so I don't call it that. There's a whole page about what is a carol to help kids sort of see, like we can give more information. You can give a definition to that. This song originally comes from Germany. If you're talking about its origins of where it was first written down, it's an older song. So I talk about when it was first published in 1550. That's the original publishing date, although it's probably older. Who knows? And then we talk about the song origins. It was a folk song about a fir tree and how the Germans loved it in the hard winters where it was really cold, and all the other plants had died or gone brown, that the tree stayed green. It was always green. It was evergreen, and we talk about what that means. And then Tannenbaum, the literal translation of Tannenbaum, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is fir tree, not Christmas tree. And that's why we always talk about, because sometimes kids talk about, oh, this is a Christmas tree. Well, not originally. It's not originally about that. It's originally actually just about a fir tree or an evergreen tree. And then we talk about how, the vocabulary, the word lovely, there's a definition of that. And then it talks about how in the 16th century, people started bringing these trees into their homes to like keep their, so even in the cold, dark winter where things had turned brown, they would bring these trees inside, and they called them paradise trees. And it wasn't until 1848 when England's Queen Victoria, her German husband, brought a paradise tree, and they started calling it a Christmas tree and using it around Christmas. So anyway, it's fun to give a little bit of that history because I don't think kids... Well, I didn't know it until I started to do the research on it. But also, I want kids to know, originally, now people sing it at Christmas, but originally it was not that. Originally it was about, a paradise tree or whatever. It's about a fir tree. Just like Over the River and Through the Wood originally is a Thanksgiving song, and now a lot of people sing it around Christmas. Or there are lots of other songs where we sing them, and I'm like, where is Christmas mentioned in this song? It's not. So some of those carols, it's fun to talk about the history. Anyway, this is one, because if you sing "Oh Christmas Tree," well, then you're making it a Christmas song, but it's actually not about that. It's Tannenbaum. Anyway, so how do I teach it? I teach the first part. Oh Tannenbaum, how lovely are your branches, oh Tannenbaum. The other thing about this song is it has a pretty wide range, so that's fun for kids too, to expand their range. We sing it, we learn it by phrase. Again, we assign letters to it. So that first part, we call that A. Oh Tannenbaum, how lovely are your branches. Oh Tannenbaum, how lovely are your branches. In winter green you always grow, through summer sun and winter snow. We could talk about how that's a sort of a contrasting phrase. Oh Tannenbaum, how lovely are your branches. And so we talk about how it's sort of an A, B, A. And the reason I do that is not because I'm like, oh, they must know that form. It's because I want them to learn, if you start listening for things that repeat, it doesn't sound so daunting. If you sing the whole song, you're like, wow, that's a long song. But actually, it's just two different phrases, right? It goes one phrase, you repeat it, do something different, and then that original phrase again. So A, B, A. And I want kids to start listening for things so that they don't get so stressed out about I gotta learn so much. Actually, this is a song that repeats a lot, so you don't have to learn all that much. You just have to figure out the pattern and then learn the few phrases that repeat, if that makes sense. So that's why I always like talking about form. I always think it's important to talk about form, and this is a really easy one to do that with. Now, I did a whole blog post about this song. Obviously, I use the favorite folk song kit to teach it, but then and reinforce and as we're going the content. And then on the blog post, I talk about how I add in a little B section where in the song I split the class in half, and I have half of the class pretend to be Tannenbaums, like make your best Tannenbaum shape. I don't know, like whatever. Because we talk about how the Germans love to walk through the Tannenbaums and admire the fir trees in the winter. So in that blog post, I give a few more details, but I talk about how like one time we sing through and half the class gets to be Tannenbaums, the other half gets to be Germans walking through. And maybe I'll add a little B section of just like me playing something on piano while kids walk around and admire, and then they switch jobs. And then because I'm me, I had another version where like the townspeople go down and chop down the Tannenbaums and drag them into their house. Anyway, in the blog post I talk about that, how to safely do that with your kids, and anyway, good times. But it's like taking the song and like making it fun, and they all they have to learn in German is Tannenbaum. I do one time sing it in German to like my, I hope this is right, based on my German diction class in college / singing German in choir. But anyway, I sing it in German just to like let them hear it once so they can hear what that sort of original version might have sounded like. Anyway, but there are a lot of fun things you can do with it. But again, I spend time talking about the form and talking about that, and I really focus on that so that kids can identify form, try things out, and then we might change it around. You might say like, well, let's take A, B, but let's change it. Let's do B, B, A, B. In winter green, you always grow through summer sun and winter snow. In winter green, you always grow through summer sun and winter snow. Oh, Tannenbaum, how lovely are your branches. In winter green, you can play with and move around the parts if you want. So like, I don't know if I like this original version, let's change it. But it's fun, again, take this song, play with form. That way you're not just like, oh, we're singing a carol. Like, oh, we're singing a carol. We're playing with the form, we're changing these around, we're letting kids arrange in different ways. So it's fun to let kids play with that. One more thing I want to talk about. I also like to do the 12 Days of Christmas. And yes, this is very Christmassy. So if you're like, well, I can't do Christmas, this is a very Christmassy one. But I also teach it because like it is more than just Christmas at this point, because I think that like it's so much a part of like, it's in our culture, and you're going to hear like, that's anytime I teach Christmas stuff, I'm like, I'm not teaching this because I want you to celebrate Christmas. I'm teaching you this because you're going to hear this at the mall, or you're going to hear this on TV, or you're going to whatever. So like, I want you to just know what it is. Not that I think you need to do this or, whatever. Anyway, it's one that I like to, 12 Days of Christmas is another one I like to do. And part of that is, again, because of the form. It's a cumulative form. It's something that, continually adds up. You could have kids add their own actions for each verse. That's pretty hilarious if you have the time. But it's also just fun to go through and to do the whole do the whole thing. But again, when I do this, I have a PowerPoint set. Let me see if I can show you this. Again, will technology work? Who knows? Let's see. Ooh, hey, it worked on Facebook. Let's see if it works on Instagram. Oh, okay. So in the set, there's like a whole set of just lyrics with clip art. Okay, and then there's a set with real animal pictures to represent the animals. So like this version. This is 12 Days of Christmas. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me this bird on this field. Because I don't think that kids necessarily know what these animals look like. I didn't before I made the PowerPoint years ago. I mean, I knew some of them, but I didn't know all of them quite so well. So it goes through, and for each one, it has the different animals. Not always the correct number, because it's really hard to find those pictures. So 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge. So it goes all the way through. I love the calling birds because it looks like they're yelling at each other. That's like my favorite one. So anyway, it goes through and again gives like real pictures of the animals, which I think is sort of fun. Let me see if I can get to the end. Okay, 8 maids a milking, 9 ladies dancing, 10 lords a leaping. Had to get creative on that one. 11 pipers piping. I went with bagpipers, and then drummers drumming. Okay, so that gives them all. And then also this set has, and I don't think it's going to work because of the PowerPoint, but at the very, very end, yeah, there's a clip art version, right, of this too. So if you wanted to use that instead, you totally could. But at the end, there's this page that has real animal sounds. So it doesn't work if you're in the view that you see right now, which is like the preview view, but you have to hit play slideshow. You have to play the slideshow. And then if you click on one of these, it'll play the animal sound. Like there's a sound of a partridge, there's a sound of turtle doves, there's a sound of hens, there's a sound of blackbirds, which is where the callie birds comes from, the calling birds. So, so let me turn here around. So anyway, those sounds are there. And that's another one that's like fun because kids, again, maybe they've heard a blackbird before, but don't know they have, right? Or maybe they've heard some of this thing before, but don't know that they've done it. So anyway, it's another fun one to add that in. And to give them more context, to give them more history. It's especially nice because I like to do, anytime I can do a cumulative song, I like to bring that in and like give them the chance at that and trying that. And this is fun where like I can sit and play piano and let another kid click through. And it's just, it's a fun song. There are a lot of fun videos online if you want to find them of people doing their own versions of this, which are hilarious. My favorite is the Muppets. The Muppets with John Denver, I think, did a version of this, which is hilarious because Fozzie keeps messing up and it's a delight. Then somebody took the audio from that and like synced their house lights to it. I mean, the videos you can find are endless, so go check them out. Okay, speaking of videos, there's one more I wanted to share before I finished, and that's if you're going to teach the Nutcracker, I personally would suggest buy a version you like, buy a DVD, buy a downloadable something, and download it. Because Lord knows that if there's ever a time when the internet's going to crash, it's when you need it. And it's going to be in December because every teacher in the building is probably like, my brain is gone, let's watch a video. Or my brain is gone, everybody jump on your iPads or whatever. I just know that like the bandwidth is going to be maxed in December, so I just try not to rely on it. But if you want, I would suggest buy a version and get it now. Or I did put a link on the links page. I wrote it down. The Russian State Ballet and Opera House has a free version of this the whole Nutcracker online. So go check it out if you want to stream it. Like I said, I don't trust this. So if you go to the links page, you can find that. I don't trust that. I instead, I bought this version years ago and I love it. It's my favorite version. It's the BBC, the Royal Ballet. They recorded themselves years ago. And I think it's the best because I think it's a really good quality. The story is like my favorite version of the story. It's well filmed, easy to use. And this, I think I might have got it on Amazon, but you can get it wherever. But there are lots of versions out there. There's the one with like Macaulay Culkin, which I think is the New York Ballet. I'm not sure exactly which company. And there's like the Russian Royal Ballet. You can buy a DVD. There's several. But this one's my favorite, and it's pretty easy to use, and I love it. So if you want a suggestion, this is a great one. And on Instagram, you're asking, where can that be found? The links page. So at the bottom of the caption for this video, or if you click on my link in profile Instagram, there's a thing that says Musical Mondays Recap. You can find all the links on that link page. Okay, so I hope this gave you some ideas for December. I know it's not December, but like as soon as we come back from Thanksgiving, you're going to be like, rats, I got to get going. So I hope this gave you some ideas. At the beginning, we talked about bulletin boards you can use. We talked about lessons for multiple grades that you can use. Next week is my last Musical Mondays video of the semester. So now's the time if you're like, I got a question, I got a whatever, I want to, whatever, pop it into the chat now or shoot me an email. I'd love to answer some questions if y'all have them next week before the winter break. All right, thanks everyone for joining me today. I hope you have a great week with your kids. If you have a short week for Thanksgiving, huzzah! And I'll see you next Monday. Hopefully you'll be so well rested and full of turkey or whatever you choose to eat and enjoy. And I hope you have a great week with your kids. I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.